Well, he's a bit of, as he put it, a bohemian, kind of a not exactly loner, but he more or less operates by his own thoughts. He's not really that much influenced by thoughts of like others or politicians. He's more or less his own person.
My name is Ron Shapiro. I now go by the name of Ronzo. That name I left here for a couple of years, and when I was living in Mexico, my girlfriend in Mexico called me Ronzito, which I later found out meant small.
Ron is a real unique character. Ron from alderman to mayor to tree board to owning the main squeeze, and of course used to be the owner of the Hoka when it was in business. Ron's kind of an icon of Oxford.
I left Wyoming. I was there 4 years, and at the time I had 3 movie theaters. I had one in Jackson Hole, Moscow, Idaho, and Missoula, Montana. And you know, I loved it. I would go back and forth to each of them and check on them, but I was tired of winter. I had been there 4 years, and I met one summer. I met 3 Southern girls. 3 girls from Ole Miss came up and worked at Yellowstone, and I had never been around that Southern charm, and nobody flirts as well as Southern girls. And I was smacked in the face, and I loved it. And I was seeing one in particular who had gone to school here but lived in Memphis, and when I would come to visit her in Memphis, we would always come down to Oxford because she loved it down here, and she said, "This is where you should come. You should come here." And even though we had split up, I still came here, and I've enjoyed Oxford since the first day I came here.
Ron moved here and saw that, you know, all we had was one movie theater that was basically a first-run theater that barely ever even played an R-rated movie, and definitely nowhere to see a foreign film or any kind of an independent film or any kind of a really good film at all. So he found an old cotton warehouse and moved a movie theater here from Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
And it was a you might say, a multi-function house. We had movies, had bands, had plays, had various other things, frat parties. I mean, you name it, I probably had it over the course of time.
I had a formula when I got here because I had to show the good art movies. And if I couldn't show good movies, then there was no reason to be in the movie business. And I would show an art film like a Kurosawa or a Truffaut movie early at the 8 o'clock slot. At 10 o'clock, I would show something like Woodstock or, you know, a movie that I thought would be interesting. And then at midnight, a lot of the times I'd show porn. And that formula worked because I could have my dozen people would come to the great art films. That would be the crowd I wanted to hang out with, and that would be good. And then everybody'd come late at night. The porn movies would be sold out, and the money made on those would give me enough money to keep being an art house, which is all I ever wanted to be. When I thought of the name of the Hoka Cinema was the letters THC, so you do silly things in your youth, you know, but I was definitely very much into marijuana at that point in my life. In fact, my first job in Oxford was at the marijuana field. At the time, Oxford was the only legal place in America where pot was grown. It was done for research purposes, and my first job here in Oxford was working at the marijuana field. I worked there a whole summer. I worked hard, and I enjoyed it, and you know, they kept me on, you know, but I tried to get my job again next summer, and they wouldn't hire me back, so I think they knew that I may have taken a sample or two. I mean, if you work at Anheuser-Busch, I'm sure you're going to sip a beer once in a while. I'm going to drive by where the Hoka Theater was, which is Tom Robbins, one of my favorite writers. He wrote Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, and he said he went to visit places he used to live in. Almost every place had been turned into a parking lot, and he thought that somebody was following him around with an eraser. And I never realized that line was so profound till I drive by here where my movie theater was, and it's now a vacant lot. And it was right here where this for sale sign is. And behind it was the Gin, which was one of the most popular clubs in Oxford, and that burned down. So both of the highlights of my life when I first moved here have both been erased. I don't know if that's a sign or not. I get hired by the publishers out of New York, call me and say, would you please, we have a writer coming down for 3 days in the South, would you please, are you available to drive them around? And so I become kind of a literary escort. So I'm very professional in my duties. I have never tried to hit on any of my clients, though I've had some really beautiful ones. In fact, next week I'm driving Jeanette Walls around, who wrote The Class Castle, which has sold 5 million copies about her. It's a memoir. And I drove her around in July. She's as pretty a woman as I have ever seen. She's 6 foot tall, redhead. But I'm a professional.
What else does he spend his time on?
He hangs out down here at the main squeeze, which, could translate into chasing women. He makes it to just about every party in town, which involves chasing women.
I'm a romantic at heart, and I loves the women, maybe too much, and there's so many of them. It's how do you pick one? There's so many nice ones, especially these Southern belles. Even though they're so neurotic that they've caused every guy in the South to be an alcoholic.
This town would be boring without Ron. This town without Ron Shapiro would be like a town without a McDonald's. It's just not right. It's just not American.
Yes, he has mucho friends, not only around here, I mean, all over the area. I mean, he has probably friends all over the country.
I think the thing to do is if you find something that you think is worthwhile, then I think you should introduce it to other people. Why keep it to yourself? Why just be in this little group of a small group of you that are real happy and healthy, and ignoring everybody else?
Any parting words on Ron?
No, not really.
Okay. What do you think? Do you have any secrets to keeping yourself happy in life? Or what?
Marijuana, meditation, masturbation. Is that all M's?
That's 3 M's.